we are going to be talking about afterlife with this panel. And we are here with an amazing person, Elizabeth Boisson, who started Helping Parents Heal. And she is going to be moderating. She is going to be joined by Gordon Smith, Dr. Mary Neal, Jacob Cooper, and Brian Smith. And I'm going to let her introduce her panel, but I want to introduce her a little bit first, and then she can say a little more about herself if you'd like. Elizabeth Boisson is the president and co-founder of Helping Parents Heal, a nonprofit organization dedicated to assisting bereaved parents. Elizabeth also hosts the Helping Parents Heal online radio show, sharing stories of resilience. And she is the author of Life to Afterlife, Helping Parents Heal. Thank you, Elizabeth.
Thank you, Heidi and Gloria. It's always so wonderful to see you. And we're excited that you'll be back at the conference, hopefully in 2026. But also, Paul will be there doing his yoga. So that's something that we're looking forward to. And we have very little time, so I'd like to just jump into this if possible. We're going to go in alphabetical order. So we're going to start with Jacob Cooper, who was also at our conference this past year. And he is a very enlightened soul for his just over 30 years. So he's a little bit older than 30 years. But he is someone who has written two incredible books about the afterlife. And unfortunately, I have a spinning wheel on my computer, which never has happened before. So I'm not getting to his information, which is just a little bit frustrating, but I'm going to get there. But anyway, he has written two incredible books. One of them is called Life After Breath, and it deals with his near-death experience that he had when he was on a playground when he was four and a half years old. And then the second one is called The Wisdom of Jacob's Ladder. I am going to go ahead and bring Jacob on right now because, and Jacob, are you unmuted? Because for some reason, my questions are just spinning. This is just the funniest thing. So, Jacob, let's go ahead and ask the first question. And the first question has to deal with your near-death experience and what it taught you here on Earth once you came back. Could you please tell us a little bit about that experience and what it's helped you with here?
Yes. Well, thank you, Elizabeth Boisson, and thank you, Open to Hope, and all people who are listening and watching. I had a near-death experience at just when I was just a young infant. I had an NDE in a playground as a young child, and I completely suffocated. I lost all ability to breathe, but there was something else that I was able to tap into, a breath that went beyond my physical body that I now know as the breath of eternity that we're all created from. And I was just a child, in a playground when I had my near-death experience. So there's so many lessons that I've learned from my NDE. First being is this isn't all that there is. We are so much more than our physical bodies, our names, and just the stories that we walk around this lifetime. And there's such a beautiful guiding force for all of us. And we are far more than just a body. But if there's any lesson that I could take that sticks the most out of my near-death experience is location of it occurring in a playground and how we are all, children playing here in the playground of God, here as our brothers and sisters keeper to try to make this world a more beautiful, more unified world and place. And it wasn't by coincidence that I did have this, but from someone who looked at physical death firsthand. I'm the living embodiment that there is no real death of the soul. The body, of course, can go, but the soul will continue, and your loved ones will continue, and so will you. And so when you remember that your loved ones will continue, there's a way and a pathway for each of you to find ways for yourselves to continue on your own journeys and your own lives.
That's beautifully answered. Thank you so much, Jacob. And I just want to say that Jacob is wise beyond his, as I say, 33, 34 years. He's also passionate about promoting healing. And so thank you so much for that answer. We're going to move on from Jacob to Dr. Mary Neal. And Dr. Mary Neal is an orthopedic surgeon who experienced a near-death experience when she was kayaking and drowned for almost 30 minutes. And she went into a near-death experience where she was told that she couldn't stay there and had to come back. She's written 2 best-selling books, and unfortunately, I am just not able to get into my information here, but I will go ahead and tell you a little bit more about those books after. But Dr. Mary Neal, could you tell us about your near-death experience and what you felt when you were over there and what you experienced while you were over there as well? And make sure you're unmuted as well.
There we go. Okay. Yeah, the first thing I want to say to all of you, because you've all lost children, is that for those of you who lost children drowning, which unfortunately is a big number of people, your child did not have the experience you probably imagine. For my lifetime, I thought that drowning would be the most horrible, terrifying, miserable way to die. But I discovered that it wasn't that bad, that God's presence and mercy, I believe, saves each one of us from that fear that so many people imagine having at the end of life. The other thing I want to assure all of you of is that no one ever dies alone. God's messengers, people, spirits, beings, I don't care what you want to call them, there are always people who come to collect us, who encourage us, who lead us, who guide us, who love us. So no one dies alone. And I think that that's something that haunts a lot of people. So that said, yes, my own experience was drowning at the base of a waterfall. And during that experience, I was held and comforted and reassured by Christ that everything would be fine, regardless of whether I lived or died. My spirit separated from my body, and I rose up and out of the river and was greeted by a group of people, again, people, spirits, beings, I don't know what to call them, but they were people who had known me and loved me for an eternity. And I have to tell you, I had no intention of coming back because I felt like I was home, like we had gone on this long journey to Earth, and now my time was over and I was home. And I will tell you that the people who greeted me were whole, they were healthy, they were timeless. God's love was entirely pervasive, and it was beautiful. I was taken down this pathway that was more beautiful than anything I could have ever imagined. And the really wonderful thing is that it was a beauty that spoke to me. It made me feel individually known and loved and valued. And I really believe that's true for each one of us. We all talk about beauty, but the beauty is different, just like it is here on Earth. And then we got to the end of this pathway, and I was there for what felt like, many, many hours. And then, yes, I was told it wasn't my time, that I had more work to do on Earth, and that I had to go back. And, being a self-assured person, I said, no, I'm good. I don't have to go back. And when I was told, no, actually, yes, you do. I was also given a list of work yet to be done. And there isn't anything on this list that was something that I thought I wanted to do, was qualified to do, or had the time to do. But certainly the most challenging thing in the list was being given information about the coming and unexpected death of my oldest son, who at the time was a healthy 9-year-old. And when I asked the obvious question of why my son, I was immediately returned to my life review, in which I had been shown again and again and again the truth that beauty really does come of all things. and that there really is a plan for each one of us and for the world. And with that, then I was returned to my body and reunited, and there were a whole series of miracles that happened afterward, but we don't really have time to talk about it all.
Well, there are so many other incredible miracles, and we love to hear about them. Let's see if we can get through the first question, and then maybe we can get back to you, though. And I am so grateful to have Dr. Mary Neal here. She has spoken at 2 of our conferences. She's coming back next time, and we're very, very excited about that. And she also is a Shining Light mom, as you will understand maybe later in this questioning. But moving on from Dr. Mary Neal, I'd like to move to Gordon Smith, who is a Scottish evidential medium who has been tested probably more than anyone else in the world. And he has written so many bestsellers as well. And he's also been a huge part of our Helping Parents Heal family. I would love for Gordon, if possible, to give us his own idea of what the afterlife is like, what it's like for our loved ones in spirit. And then after he does this, the next question was going to be something about if all of us can do this, or if it is only available to certain people. So maybe, Gordon, could you express what the afterlife, in your opinion, is like? What it's like for our kids in spirit?
Sure. So hi, everybody, and from Scotland. It's a pleasure to come and chat with you guys. As a medium, I have given hundreds of thousands of contacts, messages from the other side. I've never encountered any that haven't been full of joy, love, hope, everything you can imagine. And it comes from our loved ones on the other side who are in their light life. And if you think of that, the light life, not this heavy jacket life. And I think Mary put it beautiful when she talked about her experience of being held and being loved. Everyone who comes through makes me feel happy because I feel the expression of their love and their joy. And it would appear that the spirit world isn't like a human world, it's a state, that heightened, most undescribable state. Because we do not have words, earthly words, that can describe a true heaven. And that's really what it's like over there on the other side. It's just a state of grace. There's beautiful words, I think, covers it, grace. That's an amazing place. Can anybody be a medium? Well, I think everybody to some degree is a sensitive or psychic or whatever you want to call it. I think like anyone can be taught to play the piano or even paint a canvas. But I think some people are born to do it. And I think that gift then maybe accentuates through them differently, or maybe more so. And since I was a tiny little boy, I had visitations from the spirit world, which I didn't know were different until I explained them to my parents or my school teacher. I was always seen as that creepy child that talks to dead people. But I didn't. I talked to the living, not the dead. They were very much alive. And as a child, you're innocent. Your mind is so open and innocent. And therefore, to me, when people even say, is it frightening? Never. And if I ever hear mediums saying, oh, I'm exhausted or I'm frightened, I have to question that, because touching the spirit world with your mind, and I hope a lot of you do this, whether you do it for the reason to meet your children again, or you just do it to help others, I hope you do it, because that takes you beyond belief. If somebody asked me today, do you believe there's an afterlife? I'd say no. I know there's an afterlife. And that message in itself, I hope, brings the kind of healing that our lovely Jacob and Brian and everybody else brings to this, because it's all about healing those of us left behind, guys. So I don't really mind which level of mediumship people are on, if they're doing it for the right reason and with compassion to help and heal the minds of those who have been stuck by the loss of a beautiful loved one, but to give them the permission to carry on living and recognize that it's all part of a story. My sister's boy died 3 days ago, and I sat with him. He wouldn't die if everybody was there for a long time. And I just decided, I said, okay, son, come on. You and I are going to go somewhere. And I took his hand and I went into meditation like that lovely guy gave us earlier and said to him, son, let go. It's beautiful. And he did. And it's like, wow. And I could feel my heart swell just with the experience that he had of, oh, I'm there. And there's no in-between place, guys. It's there. So remember this, my last little word, Elizabeth. You cannot die. You cannot die for the life of you. There you are.
I love that saying, you cannot die for the life of you. It's so beautiful. And I hope that we can come back and maybe discuss a little bit more, but let's go to Brian now. Brian is a life coach, certified grief educator, and I finally am able to get into my document, and a small business consultant. He's on the advisory board for IANS and for Helping Parents Heal. He's also the author of Grief to Growth, Planted Not Buried, and he is the host of the Grief to Growth podcast. Obviously, Brian is a shining light parent. He came into this being very religious, from a religious background, and I would love for Brian to describe how those religious beliefs have maybe changed or shifted since his daughter Shayna transitioned.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks, Elizabeth. Thanks. It's just an honor being here with everybody. Thanks for having me. In terms of my background, I was raised, as Elizabeth said, in a religious background. It's Pentecostal, very fundamentalist, very, very black and white. As Gordon was saying, here or there, it was a binary thing. It's like when you died, you went to heaven or you went to hell. And I was actually very afraid of this binary situation. So I was always a kind of kid that I wanted to know how things work. So I was like, this is what they told me. So I'm trying to figure it out. So I did this process that we now call deconstruction a lot of times when it comes to religion. So, which is an interesting term because it means to tear something down. And I realized recently it's not really so much deconstruction as it is more like remodeling. So when you start to, so you're going to remodel your kitchen, you start by tearing it down, but you do it in the hopes of building something better. So I went through this process of deconstructing, and I did a lot of research, and I found out there's a lot of evidence of the afterlife. As Gordon says, we don't have to believe, we can know. And a lot of times in our religious institutions, they tell us just have faith. Well, people here, you guys have seen it. You don't have to have faith. You know. And I know that we can have that. So what's changed for me is having Shayna on the other side is I've learned how to connect with Shayna. I've learned that even because I thought, well, there is a heaven, but it's over there. It's like way out somewhere, and I'll see her someday. I had no idea that we could continue to have the connection that we have. So that's one thing that's really changed for me. And it's really wild because as I was going through the deconstruction and kind of tearing everything down, I thought, well, maybe there's not going to be anything left. And I realized as I keep going through, I'm actually recovering a lot from those ashes. There's a lot of good stuff in what I was taught, but maybe the language is a little bit different. And I don't believe there's a place of eternal punishment. I don't believe that anymore. So I think they got a few things a little bit wrong, but they got a lot of things right. So I want to just tell people that I don't think there's anything to fear. It's all good news from everything that I understand. And that my religion, my faith is still a part of me. It's just changed a lot in the last 35, 40 years.
Beautiful. Thank you so much, Brian. And I feel so grateful that you're on the board of Helping Parents Heal and that you're always a speaker at our conferences as well. We have just a little bit of time, so I'd like to quickly ask Jacob about, first of all, we talked about his near-death experience. I'd like to be able to just ask him how one is able to connect to higher awareness of the afterlife without having a transformative experience. So could you maybe go into that for us in as short a time as possible, Jacob?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, heaven is not a place where you could, put on your GPS at this point, nor is it outside of yourself. I think the most important position that we have to ask ourselves is, where are we facing? Are we turning outward or are we turning inward? And when I had my near-death experience, it really reminded me that heaven is really truly within. It's within the innermost part of our own being. And there's many ways to elevate higher consciousness, but for my own firsthand experience, where I literally had my brain crack open due to the suffocation, that's when God in the spirit realm came in. I could tell you how important it is for the brain to be very relaxed. And certainly through meditation, you could get the brain within the delta as well as the theta waves, to a lot more deepened states. I'm sorry, the alpha waves and the theta waves. Delta is more sleep, but you get your brain into a more relaxed state. That's when you could really tune within, and also through enthusiasm, which you say enthusiasm, what does that mean? It just means entheos, the Greek word for the divine within. So finding the things that you love with passion really connects you to the spirit. God is love. That's all that lasts. And so too do all of our experiences and relationships and memories that we have here. And that's how we build a heaven on earth, where it's not over there, but it's right here, something that we could build and work on and progress through this lifetime.
Beautiful. And speaking of heaven, I just want to mention the two incredible bestsellers that I absolutely love of Dr. Mary Neal, which are To Heaven and Back and 7 Lessons from Heaven. And of course, they're based on her profound experience of drowning in South America in a kayak. Getting back to Dr. Mary Neal, I would love for you to just let us know. You've had this near-death experience, obviously. What effect did it have on you to know that Willie was going to transition, and then to have him transition? Was it at all more helpful to be able to know all of these things beforehand?
Well, as you might imagine, I mean, I spent 10 years waking up every day wondering if that would be the day, because I wasn't actually given a date and time. But I will tell you that burden is impossible to carry absent an absolute, I would say knowledge, but an absolute transformative trust that God is real and present, that there really is life after death, continuation of consciousness, whatever you want to call it. And when you accept that God is real, God is love, God is present and working in our lives, and there's life after death, then it changes your understanding of death. It's not a big scary thing. It's like getting on an airplane and going home after a trip to a foreign country. And so my transformational trust allowed me to experience great joy, even in the midst of my great sorrow. And believe me, I was as devastated as any mother could be. But it's, as Jacob said, heaven is not something over here and we're here. Heaven, I believe we exist within the spiritual realm. We don't typically have sensation to it. We are not sensitive to it. People like Gordon are. Most of us aren't that sensitive, but they're all around us. And I know without any doubt that my son wasn't afraid when he died. I know that he didn't want to come back. I mean, I know that he was welcomed with open arms, and he'll be the first one waiting for me. And, your children will be the first ones waiting for you, probably looking at their watch going, well, gee, how come it took you so long to get your work done? So it radically changed my understanding of death and what that even means. And therefore, what does life mean? And I think that's really important. And the beautiful thing is, I don't think you need a profound experience to make that transformation. I think you do have to look at your own life. You have to collect the data. You have to do what Brian has done, which is try to deconstruct your own current beliefs and then collect data and reconstruct them. But everyone can make that transformation. And therefore, I think everyone can heal and everyone can actually live.
And thank you so much for having us on today. We feel very
Thank you,
grateful.
Elizabeth, and thank you to the entire panel. Your conferences are so hopeful, and there's just a lightness about them. So I appreciate this message out there that, there's more, there's more after someone physically leaves.
Yep. And thank you so much. I've learned that it helped me to help others, to know I'm not the only one, put one foot in front of the other, find a life.
Adding hope to the darkness, you start on the trip to recovery.
Reach deep down inside and say, I am going to live on.
We laugh, we cry, and remember.
Hope without action doesn't work. Hope with action can change the world.
We always say, if you've lost hope, please lean on ours.